Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Friday, July the 15th, 2016. And I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming back to the show the one, the only, Mr. Michael Noonan. And you can find Mr. Michael Noonan's work over at edgetraderplus.com. Welcome back to the show, Michael.
It's great to be with you again, Rory.
Well, I'm sorry that our last attempt didn't pan out as well as we had thought. We were having some major technical difficulties, and so I really appreciate you making time to be able to do this.
Absolutely.
And if you would, Michael, I want to just kind of walk through some of the history of our money and gold, and then I want to tie it together with your latest article that you published last Saturday on July the 9th, and that's Gold and Silver, Be Afraid, at the very least, Be Wary. And in 1913, as you're well aware, the United States monetary and financial systems were hijacked by the privately owned Federal Reserve, and they passed the Federal Reserve Act. And in 1933, gold, a significant portion of gold, was confiscated from the American people, as well as gold was outlawed for ownership. And then fast forward to 1971, President Nixon closes the gold window. No more gold for anybody. We go strictly fiat and backed by nothing except lies and murder. And now we have today, and what I want to read this, and this is the second paragraph from your latest article.
Okay.
And it says, the world is drowning in debt, created by the central bankers and force-fed to states like a goose being fattened for foie gras. Always, always follow the money. Almost everything wrong in the world today can be traced to debt. Debt that has been foisted upon states and people by bankers for the sole purpose of enriching only the shadow globalist. At the end of the day, the tab gets passed on to everyone else to pay. That is the sole purpose of the bailouts and bail-ins. Nothing else, not even you, matters to the elites. And I could not agree more with what you've said there. These people have enslaved us through our money, and what I've reached the conclusion a few months back that when your money and your currency become corrupted, the entire system has to become corrupted in order to hide the lie that the money and the currency are telling. Would you agree with that? And what are your comments on what I'm just saying?
Yeah, absolutely true. Very sad situation. Uh, I would. Every time you use the word money, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't apply. Currency is perhaps more accurate for the fiat that the world is drowning in. Money to me is something that was what we used to have in this country, the U.S. dollar, when it had specie backing with gold and silver. Right now, all we have is the what they call legal tender, federal fiat Federal Reserve notes. So that's the only comment I'd have about just the clarification about. I don't think there is any money.
No, there's not. Well, there is. It's called gold and silver.
Well, but it doesn't circulate. It doesn't circulate as a form of money. Let's put it that way. Yes,
Right.
It's always been money. It still is money legally in this country by law, which has never been overturned with the U.S. Coin Act of 1792, I believe it was.
That's right.
Yeah, never been overturned. Still on the books. It is legal. Gold and silver. Silver actually was the prevailing metal behind our monetary system. Then gold.
Yes. Well, and that's the way that it's been throughout history. Silver's
Correct.
been money a lot longer than gold has.
Yes.
So, I mean, and I think that that's what the states of Utah and I believe I know there's a couple others. I know Utah is the most well known that has legalized once again, or said that you can now use gold and silver to pay your taxes, to pay for anything, whatever you want to pay, however you want to use it. It's money,
Deal.
always
Yeah.
has been, always will be.
It's a deal for them.
Yes. Now, if they'll just start their own state central bank like South Dakota has, then they'll be a lot closer to being solvent.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on? I think it would be kind of a shame to not get your thoughts on the latest attack that's happened in Nice, France, and what do you think about that whole scene?
It's a repulsive situation. The whole world has to be saddened by something like this, and for what little is known about it at this early response time, appears to be just a lone deranged individual who is having divorce problems. Doesn't appear to be religiously motivated, not connected to any particular group, as we know today. So it's a very sad situation. It infuriates me because all of this is a consequence, a symptomatic of the consequence of the New World Order, of the Soroses of the world, who's been financing these migrants coming into Europe. People like Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, who's been fostering this. We owe them an obligation to have them come in here. It's all designed to destabilize Europe, to rid Europe of its sovereignty, to get rid of borders as they can. It's all the problem reaction solution, that basic formula that just keeps repeating itself over and over. It's just an infuriating circumstance.
That whole situation with the flood of immigrants, refugees, whatever, however you want to label them, into the whole of Europe is, in my opinion, it's a step, it's a major step of Agenda 21. And as China and Russia both have said, the Muslims are welcome. However, we're not going to change any laws. We're not going to accommodate them in any way in other than to see them as guests in our country, and they're not welcome to stay here, and they will certainly not have any influence on our culture whatsoever, which is the exact opposite of what Merkel and Olan and some of these other megalomaniacs in Europe are saying. They're saying, come on in, it's great, it's awesome. We welcome Sharia law, we welcome you. You're welcome to stay here and influence our culture and blah blah blah. And it's ridiculous. It's
It is.
ridiculous.
It's absolutely interesting that you mentioned Agenda 21 because it is very much alive and well in this country.
Yes.
Uh, and it's another sad event. I think most people have no clue what Agenda 21 is or even what it's all about. Again, it's another destabilizing factor to rid uh, rid people of their sovereignty. It's all designed to herd people as cattle into the New World Order faction.
Well, I can
And
see. Go ahead.
just another interesting comment by Christine Lagarde of the IMF yesterday. I think I can't remember specifically the name of the publication, whether McKinsey or something along those lines. They're part of the New World Order, and they've broken rank a little bit by saying the job situation for people is not been very good, and it's reflective of the New World Order lead. So there's something that's amiss here. And Christine Lagarde made the comment that it was unfortunate that this organization is making because the New World Order agenda has been serving us so well. Ooh, you know, they just speak brazenly and openly about what they're doing, and it's as though everyone else has to accommodate them. That's the attitude that they have. And
Well,
it's reflective in every aspect of society.
and
And
that's
the
go
two
ahead.
countries you mentioned, China and Russia, what are the two countries that are most not going along with the Western New World Order program. Which is not to say that China won't go along with it. But they'll do it on their own terms and within their own scheme of planning, just not in the Westernized style.
Well, that's kind of I've long thought, and I've actually expressed on numerous occasions that China is playing along, and I believe that Russia has been as well. But I'm kind of not. I don't really see Russia as being part of the big club, as George Carlin described it. I'm not sure if Putin is part of it, playing the bad cop, or if what Xi Jinping. I'm not sure what his role is as well, because there are certain elements that they have or that they display, like their absolute love of the SDR. I mean, that both China and Russia have expressed, and China's part of the SDR, the special drawing rights, which is an IMF Rothschild's product. They have,
Right.
I mean, they are fully entrenched and want this to be part of the go forward. I
Right.
mean, so it's a little bit confusing for me as to their roles in the New World Order and what's actually unfolding in front of us at this point.
Well,
Because
it's going to be more on their terms. You're right. I totally agree with you. They are participating. And it's just a switching of horses on the New World Order part from the Western to the Eastern faction, and Russia is also a part of it, but they're just not as financially advanced or entrenched a country. And I think Putin is just jockeying to get his position established within within what goes on after the Western collapse of the dollar and everything.
and speaking of which, I mean, it appears, Michael, that the dollar, even though it's showing signs of, all these signs of strength and it is great, I just don't see it being around very much longer. I mean, and as has been noted, time and again, there is plans by the elitists, the globalists, whatever you want to call them, to introduce a new global currency called the Phoenix, and that is supposed to be rolling out sometime between now and 2020. And the date that they actually gave was 2018. I mean, do you think that that's just smoke and mirrors, or that there's anything to that? And how would you see a new global currency like the SDR or the Phoenix or whatever it is? How do you see that playing out?
I've not heard about the Phoenix as you just mentioned of late, so I'm not current on that. I am aware that the SDR appears to be the next viable option, unless something like the Phoenix is introduced. But regardless of which, it's simply another form of a digitalized currency. There's going to be no. I think we touched on this a little bit last time. That I don't think any currency will in the future will ever be backed by gold and silver, because it's too restrictive on what can be issued in terms of the underlying currency as to what the governments can issue, and they do not want and cannot tolerate constraints, which is why they despise gold and silver so much. So it remains to be seen, but whatever it is, gold and silver will play an important role in terms of the old rule: who owns the gold rules, the golden rule, as it were. And this is why China and Russia and India have been accumulating gold so much, because they know it's going to play an important role in some form. But I just don't think it'll be a currency backing. There may be bond backing or something, and you have to have gold on reserve as a credit in order to do business and transact business. But the actual there'll be an SDR or some actual currency that'll still be a tradable currency between countries.
So, if I understand correctly, you do see gold and silver both playing a role. It's just a little bit unclear as to what that role may or may not be.
Yes, I don't think it'll be backing a currency. It may be you maybe use as a credit backing, as it were, to say, if you go and apply for a loan or something, you need to have some kind of assets before they'll loan you money. Same thing. If you have some form of gold and silver, then you can get into our credit system, but it'll still be a credit system beyond gold and silver.
Now, do you think that all of the financial infrastructure that China and Russia have been building out for the past 5 or 6 years, which are pretty well established at this point, do you see like the SWIFT system moving over to China's or Russia's alternative to the SWIFT system? And what role would that play as far as what we're discussing on as far as the global currency?
Well, China is really geared for the new world order style because it's a totally digitalized currency already.
Yes.
Something they'd like to have move toward in this country, eliminating cash, etc. So I don't have a good answer for that, Rory.
Okay. That's
They're
fair
they're
enough.
they're already set up to accommodate total control of people. Yet at the same time, China is encouraging its citizens to purchase gold and silver.
Which
Kind of
is the confusing part for me
yeah,
because I mean they've done that for a number of years. I mean for
yes,
quite
yeah,
some time they've said, you guys need to go out, and they've made it readily available. You can get it at any bank in China.
right,
They're, as a matter of fact, it's so decentralized through their banking system that they don't really have a gold market like you would see in other parts of the world. And they don't really have coin shops like we do here in the States. You just go to the bank and you can either take possession of it or they can store it for you with, the serial numbers, and it's all allocated and so forth. And
right.
I mean, and some people there's some theories out there that say, well, that's just a setup for them to be able to confiscate it from the citizens, which
I don't think they will.
I think they would have a lot of problems if they did that.
Yes, yes, yes,
Problems that they don't want, which
yes.
which
So,
that to me kind of begs the question, well, if China and Russia are acquiring all this gold, they're certainly not acquiring it to make trinkets or jewelry or whatever. They have plans for it, and China in particular. Otherwise, they would not encourage their citizens to acquire gold and to possess gold, and for that to be a part of their everyday life.
right,
And
right.
as you and I both know, India, gold has been part of their culture for a long time. So
Absolutely.
where do you see that headed
Which for India or just in general?
in general?
Well, that's the confusing part. I agree with you, Rory. I'm equally confused. I don't know how it's going to play out, and who does? Who? China never advertises what they're doing, but they do things very steadily over a protracted period of time. Russia, I think, is moving in the same vein. They're both building trade throughout the world, unlike the United States, which is just building more war everywhere they can, trying to support their dollar. So my only, because I don't have the answer, and I don't know anyone who has. There are some reasonably articulated possibilities, but no one has the concrete answer, other than best anyone can do without concrete knowledge is to at least own gold and silver, and it will all work out to their benefit as a consequence.
Certainly can't hurt.
Exactly. So regardless of how it plays out, at least we'll be participating in the best vein as possible, doing what the smart people are doing, accumulating as much gold and silver as they can.
And speaking of smart people and acquiring as much gold and silver as possible, give us your latest on what's happening with the markets, Michael. I know you follow the charts, and you just follow the movement of the charts and don't take anything else into account. So what are the charts telling you right now?
Well, I think we've seen, probably we can. And I keep repeating, we can go back and look at November, December as the likely low right now that we're seeing for the correction that started in 2011. and the trends are starting to turn. The daily trend is up in both markets. Gold has a slightly better configuration in the charts. Silver is still on the weekly it's breaking out to the upside. So I think we're in the beginning stages for this what may turn out to be a massive turnaround to the upside. It's just a question of when it's actually going to accelerate. And there's no time to waste on this one. The clock is ticking. It's favoring gold and silver. We're the short term right now with the uptrend. We're seeing a slight correction. There's obvious resistance at above 1860 in silver and just under 1300 in gold. We're seeing a little bit of consolidation right now for the past couple of weeks, and gold is down and silver is down again today. So it's as the markets correct, to me, they're just going to be greater and greater buying opportunities.
Yeah, I'd say buy all dips at this point because I don't see. I think that the downside risks are minimal. I mean, what are the odds at this point of us retracing back to those November, December lows in silver?
I don't think we'll get that low. If we go back about 50%, 50% retracement, that'd be fairly good. You know, it looks like there's fairly good support around the 1300 area for gold. Currently we're around 1325, 1330 in that area right now. And in silver, any type of correction, there's very solid support. You've got a very massive base built in silver, which will be extremely constructive for that. So I think any downside to silver is limited. And the gold-silver ratio, silver typically leads most markets to the upside. Gold-silver ratios come in from 84 at the beginning of the year. I've seen it as low right now, currently around just under, let's call it around 66, give or plus a little bit. So that tells me that silver, although it doesn't appear as strong as gold at some point, and gold tends to get the more response to shaky situations. It'll respond more than gold will, but gold has overall been outperforming silver, and I think it'll continue to do that. And that gold-silver ratio will continue to come in down to who knows where, 40 certainly. The old standard ratio of around 15 to 1. So there's a lot more room for silver to improve over gold.
I'm looking for that mid 30s.
Yes.
I'm looking for that mid 30s gold silver ratio to be able to make some trades. That's when I'm going to take some silver off the table and trade it for some gold. And then
Sure.
if it goes lower, do it again.
Absolutely. I've been advocating since the highs, doesn't matter what the price is, just keep buying and acquiring physical gold and silver. It's like buying a house. You do it because you need the house, and it's your insurance form, as it were. It is not necessarily, it is not for the purpose of profiting from it, other than ultimately when the system shifts and collapses or transitions to another to the eastern factors rather than the western factors right now. But lately, for the past year, I've been advocating silver as a stronger purchase of physical metals more than gold. And do both if you feel comfortable with that. But silver, one will do a lot better in their performance. And I even made I've done a few articles on the gold-silver ratio, and I pointedly a month or two ago made the observation that I did an actual switch at where the ratio was 75 to 1. The ratio was higher, but there's a cost factor when you make the switch from gold into silver. Maybe I think it cost me like around four ounces. The actual ratio was around 79, and I get in at 75. So now it's down to 65. It shows there was almost a 10 ounce per for gold gain in silver, if that makes sense. But
Yep, it does.
Yes. Instead of having to pay 75 ounces for an ounce of silver for an ounce of gold, now it's only 65. So there's a net gain of by owning the silver, a net gain of 10 more ounces.
Right.
that will continue as the ratio goes down. I only mention that for people who may not be as familiar with the gold silver ratio, how it translates and what it means.
Well, I watch it because I see it as every tick down in the gold and silver ratio. It's currently at 66. If it drops to 65, then that's a tick closer. That means more free gold that
Right.
I will be able to acquire
Exactly.
when it hits the number that I'm looking for it to hit. And that's the only way that I look at it.
Sure.
And
Essentially, if you start out with, say, 10 ounces of gold at 75 and the ratio goes down to 35 or 40, and you transition the silver that you have back into gold, you'll have almost doubled your gold holding without ever leaving the market. That's the essence of it.
that is exactly right. And that's exactly what I'm looking at.
Right.
And so I'm really I'm very encouraged at this point. And one of the last question, Michael, as far as what the charts are telling you for the remainder of 2016, do you see any of that? How do you see the year playing out? I'm not asking for a crystal ball or any predictions or anything like that. I'm just asking what your opinion is, what the charts are telling you, what is the market overall telling you? How do you feel about the remainder of 2016?
I feel positively about it, Rory. I don't predict, as you say, and I just follow the markets because the markets are the best arbiter as to what's happening. But it looks very positive. I think the trend will continue to be the upside, and it's the trend that matters. And if the trend is going higher, then that's all one needs to know, as it were, like an ode on a Grecian urn. That's all you need to know. The trend is going up, and just follow the trend. And that's where the trend has been down since 2011. It looks like it stopped, as mentioned, in November, December, and we're seeing a turnaround. So it's a transition, and I think we're going to continue higher for the balance of the year, and even higher at some point. And we'll see more days where there's $100 leap in gold and a dollar leap in silver, and they'll become a lot more common.
Well, I'm looking forward to those days. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely, they're coming.
they're
Very
coming. You think they're coming this year?
Well, we just saw one not too long ago
Well, that's true.
at the beginning of July, and this was after they had another $5 billion dumping into the gold market. I think it was around July 5th or July 6th, and the market just shrugged it off, just shrugged it off. And in the past, when we've seen most people think it's the BIS that's selling this gold and flooding it into the market. In the past, it would keep the gold market suppressed and make it go lower, but not this last time. So that to me is another healthy sign that the sellers have lost control essentially, and now the buyers are slowly taking control.
I can only hope that we get some kind of physical starting to lead the market as opposed to the paper leading the market, because I mean it's ridiculous that we have this criminal operation called the COMEX that sets the global exchange rate for gold and silver, even though everybody knows that there's nothing going on there except smoke and mirrors. I mean, there are people that are swapping paper back and forth, and there's very little gold or silver that actually moves out of the COMEX. But yet it sets the price. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, I don't know if it really sets the price anymore. It's used as a benchmark, but I think that until China has fully accumulated as much physical as they can, they're letting it set the price. Um, this is why to me it doesn't really matter what the price is. If you own physical gold and silver, no matter what the price is going to be, you're going to benefit and protect yourself. Because when the transition comes about and the dollar is no longer the benchmark, maybe even disappears, who knows? Then whatever you own in silver and gold will just multiply your purchasing effect for whatever you want to have.
Looking forward to that day.
Yes, yes. So it's the COMEX price. That's just temporary. It's in the it's in the works of disappearing. That the Shanghai Gold Exchange, a lot of people have put a lot of hope on that, but it's give it some time. I think the Chinese are in concert and directing this whole scenario behind the scenes to their benefit, and at some point they'll pull the plug, and gold and silver will do very well.
Well,
so I don't even try to, there was a lot of predictions: $5,000, $10,000 gold, $200, $300, $400 silver. What difference does it make? As long as you own it, the purchasing power that you will have in the ownership will keep everyone on the in their wealth preservation status.
and there you have it, because that's the name of the game: wealth
Exactly.
preservation.
Right.
And it doesn't matter, because it could be the equivalent of silver, $500 an ounce, but what does that mean if there's no dollars?
Right.
It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So,
And those fiats are simply, it's an ounce of gold, it's an ounce of silver, it doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the number of fiats required to purchase them.
correct.
So,
I don't even call it purchase. I just call it exchange and acquire, because if it's money, that's what you're doing.
right.
You're exchanging and you're acquiring.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
well, Michael, I could speak with you for the rest of the day. I mean, we've only scratched the surface, and I'm going to have to get you back on before too long, and we'll continue this conversation if you're
Sure.
willing.
Absolutely. It's always a delight to talk with you, Rory.
It
You have
really
some,
is. I love it.
you ask very pertinent questions to all your guests, not just me. I've heard several of your other radio shows, and they're very good.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And we've been speaking with Michael Noonan, and you can find all of Michael's great work over at edgetraderplus.com. Michael, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll speak with you soon.
Great, Rory. You too. Take care.
The United States monetary and financial systems were hijacked by the privately owned Federal Reserve, and they passed the Federal Reserve Act. And in 1933, gold, a significant portion of gold, was confiscated from the American people, as well as gold was outlawed for ownership. And then fast forward to 1971, President Nixon closes the gold window. No more gold for anybody. We go strictly fiat and backed by nothing except lies and murder. And now we have today. And what I want to read this, and this is the second paragraph from your latest article.
Okay.
And it says, the world is drowning in debt, created by the central bankers and force-fed to states like a goose being fattened for foie gras. Always, always follow the money. Almost everything wrong in the world today can be traced to debt. Debt that has been foisted upon states and people by bankers for the sole purpose of enriching only the shadow globalist. At the end of the day, the tab gets passed on to everyone else to pay. That is the sole purpose of the bailouts and bail-ins. Nothing else, not even you, matters to the elites. And I could not agree more with what you've said there. These people have enslaved us through our money, and what I've reached the conclusion a few months back that when your money and your currency become corrupted, the entire system has to become corrupted in order to hide the lie that the money and the currency are telling. Would you agree with that? And what are your comments on what I'm just saying?
Yeah, absolutely true. The U.S. Coin Act of 1792, I believe it was.
That's right.
Yeah, never been overturned. Still on the books. It is legal gold and silver. Silver actually was the prevailing metal behind our monetary system. Then gold.
Yes. Well, and that's the way that it's been throughout history. Silver's
Correct.
been money a lot longer than gold has.
Yes.
So, I mean, and I think that that's what the states of Utah, and I believe, I know there's a couple others. I know Utah is the most well known that has legalized once again, or said that you can now use gold and silver to pay your taxes, to pay for anything, whatever you want to pay, however you want to use it. It's
It's a
money,
deal.
always
Yeah.
has been, always will be.
It's a deal for them.
Yes. Now, if they'll just start their own state central bank like South Dakota has.
A very sad situation. Uh, I would. Every time you use the word money, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't apply. Currency is perhaps more accurate for the fiat that the world is drowning in. Money to me is something that was what we used to have in this country, the U.S. dollar, when it had specie backing with gold and silver. Right now, all we have is what they call legal tender, uh, federal Federal Reserve notes. So that's the only comment I'd have about just the clarification about. I don't think there is any money.
No, there's not. Well, there is. It's called gold and silver.
Well, but it doesn't circulate. It doesn't circulate as a form of money. Let's put it that way. Yes,
Right.
it's always been money. It still is money legally in this country by law, which has never been overturned with the.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Friday, July the 15th, 2016. And I have the very distinct honor and great pleasure of welcoming back to the show the one, the only, Mr. Michael Noonan. And you can find Mr. Michael Noonan's work over at edgetraderplus.com. Welcome back to the show, Michael.
It's great to be with you again, Rory.
Well, I'm sorry that our last attempt didn't pan out as well as we thought. We were having some major technical difficulties, and so I really appreciate you making time to be able to do this.
Absolutely.
And if you would, Michael, I want to just kind of walk through some of the history of our money and gold, and then I want to tie it together with your latest article that you published last Saturday on July the 9th, and that's Gold and Silver, Be Afraid, at the very least, Be Wary. And in 1913, as you're well aware,